Jax Taylor is getting ready to return to the Valley. We have an update on Tom Girardi's trial because it looks like it might be wrapping up this week. I will catch you up to speed. And then we had a very explosive season 5 Real Housewives Salt Lake City trailer that we're going to get into as well. Let's dive in. You're listening to No Filter with Zack Peter, your go-to source for all the latest pop culture and reality TV tea, served fresh all week long. Now, let's dive in. Dum de dum de dum day yay 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 dum de dum day yay 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 0 0 0 done. What? I have that little armpit thing going on. Sorry. Hi guys. What's today? Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. What's going on? Welcome on in. Welcome on in. Welcome on in. What's up, everybody in the club? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. We have quite a bit to get into today. The Jax Taylor of it all naturally, but we have a lot of Girardi stuff that we're going to get into because of when I tell you, I have all of my notes, literally. So many notes. There's day 7, day 6, day 6 continued, day 6. Like, there are just so many notes from the Girardi trial, which I'll kind of just catch you guys up to speed on. That way you guys are briefed and informed. We'll get to that in just a sec. But let's start with this Salt Lake City trailer because it came out yesterday. It came out on Monday, and it was cray. It looks really good. So the new season of Salt Lake City returns September 18th. We have 3 newbies. One of them, Bronwyn, who's full-time, and then we have 2 others that are going to be friends. I mean, first of all, can we just say Heather Gay looks freaking incredible in the new opening because they're all like wearing their purple dresses. Like, Heather looks good. Whatever work she's been doing and her Ozempic and all the things, like, Heather is looking real good. And I was like, damn, sis got it. So shout out and props to Heather. Lisa Barlow always looks incredible and iconic as she normally is. Whitney has her new little bobblehead. Not that thrilled by the bobblehead. Meredith Marks looks lovely. We have Mary Cosby that's back full time. She's finally come back to collect her snowflake. Last year she was a friend of, and then we heard that there were some rumors that her and Lisa Barlow got into some beef. They were fighting, and I guess Mary Cosby called Lisa Barlow's son the R word, which many people are like, what is the R word? What does the R word mean? Does that mean Republican? I'm like, no, guys, she's gonna call Lisa Barlow's son Republican? Like, come on. No, what did you just fall out of a coconut tree? Retarded. That's the word. That I know a lot of people don't like to say that word anymore, and some people are trying to bring the word back, but that's what she called. I think she said, like, what is your son retarded or something? And so that's the word that she used. Yeah. So some people don't like to use that word. Some people are, again, trying to bring the word back. Some people don't care. I don't know. Again, I worked in the special needs world. I have a brother with autism. I'm personally not offended by the word, but I know that word is very offensive to some people. So yeah. Danny says she gives the Salt Lake City an 8 for the trailer. It was really good. We didn't get like a whole lot of what the drama is, but we definitely see some drama. The only reason I'm using that, the only reason I said the word is because people used to casually say it all the time, like just like in like a very passive way. But it was just funny that, like, because like the outlets and even before when I was covering, I was like, the R word, the R word. And everyone's like, what is the R word? Like, nobody knew what the R word was. Like, everyone's like, what does the R word mean? And some people were like, does that mean Republican? And I'm like, no, when did it become? Well, I guess some people do think it's offensive to be called a Republican. But anyway, it looks like a good season. It does. There's drama. It looks like Whitney may have been in contact with Monica again to dig up some receipts. There's some beef between Mary Cosby and Meredith. They're beefing. So it looks like a good season. I'm excited for it. We needed it, especially after that pigeon trailer. That Real Housewives of New York pigeon trailer was garbage. It was not. It was beautifully shot and it was beautifully edited, but it was boring AF. This is a Real Housewives trailer. We have drama, we have stakes, we have levity, we have all the things that we need in a good Real Housewives trailer, and it looks good. And who recorded what? I don't know who was recording what, but somebody was recording something. It definitely looked good. Sydney says the preview looked good. I'll give him that. Hope it turns out as good as it looks. I hope so too. We haven't heard much about it outside of the, Mary Cosby and Lisa Barlow and calling her son, retarded or whatever. Outside of that, I haven't heard anything about like what's been going on this season, which I kind of like. I like when we get, you know, no tea. That way we can be surprised and kind of watch as it all unfolds. Unless it's like a Girardi thing or a Jen Shaw case where it's like, like it's major headline news. So that it's like a big thing. Yeah. So that's what it is. Danny says the Roni trailer was a soft 5. A soft 5? I mean, that's generous. Zach has a sexy morning voice. Do I have a sexy morning voice? I had to tape. Oh my God, you guys. I was like at 5 a.m. taping ad reads and like all sorts of stuff this morning. I was like, I hope my voice doesn't sound too crazy. So yeah, that's so disrespectful in so many ways. To call somebody Republican? What? We need a deep dive into that church. Oh, Mary's church. Yeah, Mary's church. I ask if you will attend the church, but I think it's closed. Her church closed? Mary's church closed? Did Jesus come for her? I don't know. Okay. Well, that's the Salt Lake City church. Like I said, it returns September 18th. So we've got 4 weeks, exactly a month away. I'm ready for it. I'm excited for it. It looks good. And it looks like it's going to be a good season. Okay. That said, let's talk about Jax Taylor. So, Jax Taylor is not fired, despite the rumors that we covered yesterday. Because remember, people on Reddit were like, oh my God, I have it on a good source that Jax Taylor's been fired. And I trust my sources 99.9%. Well, bitch, that 0.01% gotcha. Which is exactly what I said. He's in treatment. So, yeah, he's not going to be filming right now. And so when he gets out of treatment, I'm sure they'll film again. Like he'll begin filming again. He'll film his journey outside of treatment. Like they're not going to fire him for going to treatment. Because then other people are like, they can't fire you for going into treatment. That's a wrongful termination. I'm like, yeah, guys, I know. He's not fired. Like he's taking a break. He's in treatment. You can't film while you're in treatment, but you can film getting out of treatment. And I was like, and if the season is too far gone at that point, he probably won't have much to film. Like maybe the final scenes with Brittany, but like for the most part, you know, they have no reason to fire him. Why would they fire him for going and getting help? Like it was just a stupid. I'm like, who is believing this? What do you just fall out of a coconut tree? Like why are we believing these Reddit rumors? They've never been right. They've always been low budget. So there you go. Sucks to suck. Don't believe these Reddit rumors anymore. Joe says, is Jax leaving the facility early to film The Valley? It seems like he needs at least a year to fix something inside of him. Or maybe putting something inside of him will fix him. Uh, Listen, I don't know. I remember when I was in a treatment center, I was there for like, I think 4 weeks. I think I did 2. Yeah. I think I was there for like 4 weeks. And I was just kind of like, okay, did this, got the lessons I needed to learn. Thanks. Peace out. I got to get back to work. So, but with Jax, I don't know what he's even really there for, or what he's seeking treatment for exactly, or what he's hoping to do or get better. So yeah. Diane says, my son is classified as retarded. The word does not bother me. It's an old classification. I will say it, but once you are classified as retarded, it stays. Well, thank you for that, Diane. Thank you for that explanation. See, like, here's the thing. I think most people, the people that get offended by shit are the people that don't need to be getting offended by shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I don't get it. I really, I was seeing the other day, like, now that there's like this, monkeypox epidemic, and apparently we're not allowed to say monkeypox anymore. We have to call it mpox because otherwise it's offensive to say monkeypox. And I was like, oh my God, like who is making up these, like who is so damn sensitive that like we need to be, people need to be walking around wearing some helmets. You know what Matt Rife was like, you guys are offended. Here are some special needs helmets. I'm starting to like be team Matt Rife on that one. I think some people are just too damn sensitive today. And like, if you're offended by something, that's keep it moving, okay? Take that out of your life, take that person out of your life, don't look at that, don't watch that content, do any of that shit. Like, just focus on you. Laura said it's offensive to monkeys, it's offensive to listen, I don't know. I mean, if it's not called monkeypox, then what does the M stand for? What is the M and the Mpox? Like, listen, I don't know. I don't understand the arguments. I'm not gonna sit here and try to defend it, nor do I even wanna understand it at this point. Because 'cause I'm like, now y'all are just whining about every little fucking thing, and I'm done with it. I'm tired of your drama, okay? I'm sure the monkeys filed a petition. What's next? Mad cow disease. We can't say mad cow disease. Okay, Bravo RN2. We're not allowed to say mad cow disease because we don't want to classify the cows as mad. You know, we don't want to give them the angry connotation. Remember when that influencer came for Beyonce when she said spaz in a song that was oh, I do remember that. They got mad at Beyonce for saying spaz in her song. Yeah. Are the monkeys offended? Guys, I don't know if the monkeys are offended. Apparently, one of the monkeys said, "Hey, I'm offended. Don't come for the monkeys. Don't come for the chimpanzees. Don't come for the gorillas. Don't come for any of the monkeys." Mentally ill bovine disorder. What is grumpy bovine disorder? Well, I don't know. Grumpy still has a connotation that like you're not feeling well. You know, we want to make sure, and we don't want to stigmatize people that are grumpy, right? We want to make sure that all states of being are important, right? We don't want anybody to feel stigmatized if they're grumpy. What is offensive, monkey or pox? Well, you could say you're supposed to now say Mpox. That's why you'll see it referred to as Mpox and no longer you know what? Which actually kind of pisses me off. Sorry, this is my tangent of the day, and we'll get into the Girardi stuff momentarily. But this kind of pisses me off because when all the monkeypox were coming for the gays, everybody was saying monkeypox, and all the gays were like, "Ooh, monkeypox!" Like we were stigmatizing the gays. Hello, welcome to the gays. I'm representative of all the gays, and so then it was okay to say that it was monkeypox, and now that suddenly it's starting to go after all the straight people, the M's are coming for the straight people. Now we're not allowed to say monkeypox anymore. Although monkeypox does look very foul. Have you seen some of the like severe photos? It's crazy. I remember there was one lady and she was on TV and she had it all over. Also, how do you even get monkeypox? Isn't it like a sexually transmitted thing? That was my understanding of it. Like, and now monkeypox is what? Floating around in the air and everybody's gonna get it? Or is everybody just, like, blowing each other these days because we were bored in Rona days? I don't know. We can't piss off the animals. Oh, you wanna know what's funny about pissing off the animals? So, I've been on the dating apps again recently, and there was this one guy. His name is Lance. And Lance, because in my dating profile, I put that I'm a spiritual gangster, right? It's a funny term. There's a brand called Spiritual Gangster. I have a spiritual gangster shirt. And so I put that in my dating profile. It's like, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that, and I'm a spiritual gangster with a little yoga emoji, right? Because I am from East LA. I can cut a bitch. I am from the hood. Well, I mean, I say that very frugally. Like, I don't know if I'm as hard as I think that, I come across as. But I do have a little bit. I did come from. I do have it in me. I got more of a big mouth than I do, fists. Um, but like, I'm spiritual, but I also am not afraid to pop off on a bitch. You know what I mean? That's kind of a better way to describe spiritual gangster. But then this guy Lance, he's like, "Ugh, you're a spiritual gangster that eats animals? What? Feeding on the deceased is not a spiritual practice, homie. Rethink it." I was like, "Oh, first of all, you are way too white to be saying homie, number one. And number two, I responded, I also drink. So I'm the worst kind of spiritual gangster." And then he responded again. And Sir Lancelot said, "Well, you look very healthy and sexy, but if you're truly into spirituality, I'd rethink eating animals. If I look healthy and I look sexy, then I think the animals are actually working for me. You know what I mean?" He said, "I'd rethink eating animals. Stick to cramming cock and ass in your face. Replace weed for alcohol. Now that's a gangster." No, that sounds like a little bitch. That doesn't sound gangster to me. I don't eat animals and I I don't drink alcohol because I want to smoke weed because I want to eat all the plants and take them away from all the animals, but I don't want to eat the animals either. Chickens weren't offended by chicken pox. Well, apparently the chickens have tougher skin, and apparently the monkeys don't. So yeah, Lance was quite, quite the adventure. So yeah, and then after that I blocked him. I was like, all right, I'm done with this. He just fell out of a coconut tree. I was like, my goodness, Sir Lancelot. You know, I enjoy animals. I like them in general. I particularly really enjoy eating them. It's a great source of protein, and that's what keeps me looking, as he said, healthy and sexy. His words, not mine. So if I'm so sexy, I'm sexy and I know it. Dun, 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 dun. So there's your life tip for the day. If you want to be sexy, eat some animals. Okay. Let's talk about the Girardi case, because we have now determined Jax Taylor is not fired, and the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City looks really good, and it returns September 18th. Wanda says to be a fly on the wall of Zach's dance. uh, yeah. Like someone is going to change their eating habits because someone starts to judge about it. Oh, please. Well, it's also like, be more spiritual. But it's like, how spiritual are you if you're literally judging random strangers for their life choices? Like, piss off. Okay. Girardi. So here's the crazy part. Just don't eat your pets. Yeah, I don't want to eat my pets. Just my boyfriend. Okay. So we are, I think we're, as of Monday of this week, day 8. And so the prosecution has finally rested their case. The prosecution made their whole case about why Tom Girardi is guilty, right? Now the defense is coming forth. So the prosecution was basically trying to say that Tom Girardi, his name was on these doors. He ran the firm. He knew what he was doing. They have emails and voicemails showing that he was dodging clients and preventing them from getting their money, or he was at least aware that this was going on. And all the money was just like moving into all these different accounts and from trust accounts to personal accounts. And he was spending lavishly on all these things. Like it's just, you know, it just is what it is, and it's a mess, and it's unfortunate, and they had several former staffers, several former colleagues, several former, clients of Tom Girardi. Here, I'll go through some of the list of people that have testified in court so far as of last week. Haven't been fully caught up on what went down in court on Monday of this week, because now we're switching from the prosecution to the defense, so we'll cover just what the defense has argued thus far. So the people we've had testify so far. So we started off with Kathy and Joe Ruigomez. Joe is the burn victim. He was part of the explosion. We learned in court. So they, obviously discussed how Tom Girardi was avoiding giving them their payments for the longest time, and they were, on trying to, get him to pay up, and he wasn't paying up, and yada yada. We know their story. We've seen it in Hulu, Housewife and the Hustler, Part 1 and Part 2. They're one of the most vocal and most public former clients of Girardi Keese. And we learned in court that they, as of this week, have received all of their settlement money. So all the money that was owed to them, they have now received in full. Okay. And they just basically shared their experience with Tom Girardi and how, they were trying to get him to pay. He wasn't paying. He was giving them the runaround. He was dodging them, and they really took him to court and tried to get the best of it. Right. Then we get to Judy Selberg. Oof. Okay. So the Judy Selberg case, you guys. So we've heard of Joe Ruigomez, the burn victim, and we've heard of the orphans and widows, which I also want to clarify. The orphans and widows have also received their settlement money. So both the Ruigomez family and the orphans and widows, they've gotten all their money. They've been paid in full. Okay. But there's this other case, this one that we have not heard about. And it's by this woman named Judy Selberg. This is a tough one. So she was in a car accident. Oh, no, wait, sorry. Nope, wrong one. we haven't gotten to the real sad one yet. This one's also pretty sad. Mixed up the former clients. So Judy Selberg, her husband, was killed in a boating accident. They got a $500,000 settlement, did not receive all of their funds. We're fighting to get Tom Girardi to receive to get the rest of their settlement money. Okay. Selberg, though, the reason she's relevant is because this brought in Alexa Galloway. And so Alexa Galloway was an associate attorney of Girardi Keese. These are all the prosecution's witnesses, by the way. So Alexa Galloway used to work at Girardi Keese. She worked on the Selberg case. Judy Selberg was trying to get her money from her settlement, which was $500,000. Obviously, Girardi Keese was entitled to a part of that, and then you have fees and costs and all of that stuff. So for whatever reason, Judy was not getting her money. She was going through Alexa, who was one of the associates that worked on the case. Alexa was trying to go to Tom Girardi and trying to get Tom Girardi to give her the money. He kind of kept giving her the runaround. Then Judy Selberg ends up suing Girardi Keese, names Alexa in the lawsuit. And that's when Alexa's like, whoa, I'm a junior associate. I don't know what the heck is going on. I don't know why I'm being pulled into this lawsuit. Why am I being named in this lawsuit? Like, where's the money? Why is the client not gotten the money? Alexa was in communication with Christopher Camone, who was the CFO. And so they worked closely together. The defense kind of tried to argue that like most of Alexa Galloway's communications were with Camone and not with Tom Girardi, but she's like, no, Tom Girardi was also dodging this, right? Velma says 500,000. Erica spent that in 4 months. It's actually not true, and we'll get into the Erica of it. Because we learned some interesting things about EJ Global in all of this as well. Is it true Sutton store closed? Yes, Lori, we covered that in yesterday's episode of the podcast. So that's Alexa Galloway. She ultimately resigns in December 2020, which is when all the shit hit the fan. Erica filed for divorce. Lawsuits started coming left and right at Girardi Keese and Tom Girardi. Okay, so that's Alexa Galloway, associate attorney. Then we have Norlena Ruillard, and she worked in the accounting department. She explained how a lot of the money was spent. So it seems like a lot of these people that worked in the accounting were aware of what was going on, and they were kind of just complicit, and they were kind of just going with it. So Norlena was there. She kind of explained, how the money was being spent and what the money was being spent on. That was wild. And she actually had a lot to reveal, which we'll get into. We also had Eric Southy. He was the attorney for Judy Selberg, whose husband passed away in the boating accident. He said that Tom was pretty competent during her case, which I think was in 2015, if I'm not mistaken. I would have to dig through all my notes, but these are just kind of the recaps. Then we have client Josie Hernandez. She had the pelvic mesh case. We saw her in part 2, very briefly in part 2 of The Housewife and the Hustler, when Erica sat down and met with former clients of Girardi Keese. There was Nancy, oh God, I'm blanking on her last name, but she's the one that her husband had the lottery ticket and the daughter cashed in the lottery ticket, and then he sued his daughter for the lottery earnings, and it like tore their family apart because they were fighting over a lottery ticket and money that they won. She ultimately, I believe, her husband did receive all of his money. So that was Nancy. And then there was Josie. Josie was also at that sit down with Erica, as was Kathy Ruy Gomez. So I think those were the 3 that were former clients of Girardi Keese that were present for that sit down with Erica. So she is one of them. Her settlement was for $135,000. Then we have Arin Scappa, who was also an attorney at Girardi Keese, who worked on Josie Hernandez's case, or Josephine Hernandez is her full name. We have Kathy Marlatt, who was a former financial consultant for Girardi Keese. She was consulting for them dating back to 1994. I was like, damn, I was born in 93. She's been working there that long. Camone ultimately took over her role. I believe she said in court that it was interesting that Camone even took on the role of CFO, because before that he was just like some clerk that worked there and like didn't really have much knowledge of basic accounting. So definitely seems to think he was incompetent. We had Alan Zimmerman, who is from Law Finance Group, loaned Tom Girardi $12 million back in 2015. Later ended up suing Girardi Keese because Tom did not pay back that $12 million loan, even though it was determined that money was coming in. And the interesting thing is, like, money would come in that would bring Girardi Keese like $30 million. Like, let's say, like, maybe the case was like, I don't know, these are just numbers off the top of my head. I would have to again dig through all my notes, but like they would bring in like $80 million lawsuits where 30 million was entitled to Girardi Keys. So it's not crazy to think that there was a lot of money because if they had their, attorney's fees that, were 30-40% of the settlement, then yeah, $30 million, that's crazy. That's how we hear about this case with Alan Zimmerman because he ended up suing Girardi Keys for that $12 million loan because I think he was at like a St. Patrick's Day party. And one of the partners was like, "Oh, did you get paid back your loan? We just settled this Shell oil case and brought in 30 million for the firm." And then he was like, "Actually, no, I didn't get paid my $12 million loan. That's interesting." And so, you start to think things are off with the spending because if you borrowed 12 million, but then you earned, net uh net 30 or gross 30, no, net 30, and that, like, how do you not pay back the $12 million loan? Like, what, how, what, where, huh? So we heard from Alan Zimmerman, we heard from Erica Saldana. So this is the really crazy sad case. Um, so Erica Saldana was involved in a car accident where she was hit by a drunk driver and her son was injured in this car accident and became paraplegic. And it's just devastating. She earned a $17.5 million lawsuit or settlement. And I believe they sued like the manufacturer of the car seat and they sued the insurance company of the person that hit them for the drunk driving incident, which was wild. Um, but she wasn't fully paid as of 2020 when, everything with the firm started to go down. And so the unfortunate but her son has since passed away. He was, I believe, 1 at the time of the car accident, which was back in, I wanna say 2015? No. No, I think it was around 2015. But it was tragic that she lost her son. She needed this settlement money not to, give her some sort of sense of peace, but because she needed to like get a home to take care of her son because her son had, extensive medical needs and needed lots of medical attention. She was trying to get a hold of Tom Girardi and was like, "Do you not understand? Like, I need this money for my son. He's injured. He's handicapped. He's incapable of being able to live on his own. Like, I need this money to care for him." She wasn't working. Her husband wasn't working. They were having to care for their son full time. And Tom would get like frustrated with her and she was like, "Where's my money?" He would give them all of these random reasons, right? "Oh, there's a tax issue. I have to check with the IRS." Or, "Oh, I think at one point he was saying there was like a woman's tax that, or like some sort of special classification of taxing that is specific to women." Or he was, holding the money so that it could build interest. And then you later find out any settlements that sit and build interest, the interest ends up going to the California State Bar and they end up using that money to, I believe, help underprivileged people with their cases. Um, so he was just giving people all sorts of crazy excuses and this crazy, crazy runaround. But with Erica Saldana, it was very unfortunate because, you hear her wanting, and she, got very emotional on the stand and she was trying to explain to Tom Girardi the necessity of the situation, right? Not to say that like the orphans and widows case wasn't unfortunate, but like that's a passing. And so what happens then is just kind of like the grief that you have to carry, right? Whereas in this case, like this is a young child that can no longer, function for himself because he needs full-time care. And so they do need to get a house and they do need to, make certain accommodations for his life. And ultimately he ended up passing away. He had very serious medical issues that they were tending to. And she was trying to explain this to Tom. And Tom's like, "Well, I just had surgery. Like, don't you know what I'm going through? I have stuff going on in my life too." And it was just wild. Um, and like I said, her son ultimately, unfortunately, ended up passing away, which was just gut wrenching and heartbreaking to hear, this Saldana woman have to share this experience in court. And also just the loss of a child, especially a young child. If he was, I mean, he couldn't have been any more than like 5 or 6. Well, no, I think he passed away in 2020 or early 2021. So I thought he wasn't even 5. Couldn't have even been 5 or 6 years old at that point. So we heard from Erica Saldana. We heard from Ryan Robertson, who's a special agent at the IRS who did the investigation on Girardi Keese, and he was the one that was like showing all of the money and all of the transfers. And I think, as I shared on the podcast before, we learned that there was a total of $20 million that went towards covering expenses for EJ Global, which was Erica Jane's LLC. And so there were, glam expenses, planes, music video expenses, costume expense, like all these expenses that were um, billed on the Amex that was ultimately being paid by Girardi Keese. And the people that did work in accounting ultimately said that, they were aware that he was spending money on, his wife's music career, and that it was lavish spending, and there were private planes and country clubs that he was paying for as well. So Ryan Robertson kind of explains how that system all went down. But the interesting thing that came out of this in cross-examining Ryan Robertson is that we realized that I think it was about a total, because the time span in which they're discussing all of this was 2010 to 2020, right? And I don't know if that's a statute of limitations issue or that's just when the cases that were specifically referring to. Not sure why that's the timeline that we're focusing on exactly, but with Ryan Robertson, it I think was determined that I believe it was 69 million that Tom Girardi had personally taken out for his own, personal expenses or whatever. He was taking them from client trust accounts. He was taking them from Girardi Keys operating accounts. And so that was the money that was being spent. And I think there was like another, or I think part of that was like 20 million of that was like spending on country clubs and private planes and all of that stuff. But it was a substantial amount of money over the course of that time, right? Only to find out, which was revealed in court, which was kind of confusing to me. I guess not only was there like 69 that was taken from Girardi Keese and from these settlement accounts, or sorry, trust accounts, but apparently Tom was also paying this money back, which is interesting. So I think in total he paid like over $80 million back to Girardi Keese. So even though he was taking this money, he was financing the money back into Girardi Keese, which then was kind of confusing for me because I was like, well, if he was taking this money and spending it lavishly, and then he was also putting the money back into the operating accounts and back into the trust accounts, what happened to that money because it wasn't going to the clients? And it does seem that the priorities at Girardi Keys were to pay for these personal expenses rather than to pay the clients back. And that's where it's messy. So even though the money was technically put back, because the defense does try to bring that up with Ryan Robertson, and he kind of is like, well, yes, but that's kind of beside the point. And it seems like they're focusing on the fact that the way that the money was managed was wrong. And as a result of this, clients were injured in the sense that they weren't getting their settlements, and so there was a fiduciary responsibility to the clients, not to his own personal expenses. And so that's what they're arguing. And now the defense is trying to argue, well, he wasn't fully aware and he did have cognitive decline. And so the defense is starting to introduce witnesses. There's a woman, Dr. Helena Chu, or Chui, 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 Dr. Helena. She's coming out and talking about his cognitive decline, which apparently was noticeable as of 2017, which is when he had the car accident and he had TBI, traumatic brain injury. And apparently there was some sort of cognitive decline that started in 2017 and then really picked up in 2019 and 2020. So much so that it's even revealed in court that there was like this, they were like these scammers that were like coming to Tom Girardi and trying to get him to like invest $5 billion into like Joe Biden. And so it was clearly like a scam, but like he was taking it very seriously. And so people around him were like getting concerned. And Erica apparently was getting concerned that like, why is he buying into what clearly seems to be a scam? Like, why is he participating in this? Why is he getting involved in this? Which was interesting. So it does appear that there was some sort of cognitive decline, and it does appear that the car accident in 2017 is where it began. However, what the prosecution is arguing is it's like, sure, maybe there was some cognitive decline that started in 2017, but we're dating all this back to 2010. And a lot of this stuff happened in 2015. So there was no cognitive decline at that time. Maybe a little bit, but not to the point where, because he wasn't really with it in the last few years, which maybe kind of explains how the House of Cards fully came tumbling down because he was starting to lose track of it. But you find out that there were so many complaints filed against Tom Girardi dating back to the 80s that were just unattended. So much so the California State Bar can't just be like, oh well, we just missed all of these. Do I have the exact number in here? That like, how did you miss all of these, um, all of these things? Let's see. Settlement 50. The earrings did come up at one point. They also, we found out that EJ Global, even though EJ Global was getting a lot of money, there was a lot of money that was being paid for on behalf of EJ Global in the earlier years. But as it got closer to 2020, less and less was being paid for EJ Global. And then at one point, it looks like Erica's personal career was helping to finance Girardi Keys because there was a $150,000 transfer that was made from the EJ Global accounts to the Girardi operating account. So it appears that Erica at some point was starting to profit and they were taking that money and putting it into Girardi Keys. But I'm trying to find out where the number of complaints, because I had that written in here. Uh, over 200, yeah, over 200 complaints dating back to the 80s. That's wild, but nothing was done until 2022 when they finally took action against him and disbarred him. Do you think he really has any cognitive decline? I do believe he does. I mean, and we're now seeing in court, has had cognitive decline beginning in 2017 when he was in the car accident. So that is apparent. They do reference like his podcast interview that he did in 2020, where he kind of seemed to be with it. And even Daniel Feruzin, who interviewed him, who I've had on this podcast before, said that like, yeah, he was kind of like off and was kind of regurgitating some older stories, which was kind of typical of elderly people. But Daniel Feruzin did say, but it's not enough to say that this is why he was not paying clients. And that is true. And I think the prosecution has a really strong case of being like, yeah, he did have some sort of cognitive decline. And he did start to dip in the later years post 2017. However, these things were happening, and what they're focusing on is everything that was happening since 2010. And not only that, but they're showing that there were multiple complaints against Tom Girardi that dated back to the 80s about clients not getting their funds. So I believe there was even like an old Salon article or an article that was in Salon magazine where they talked about the Aaron Brockovich case and how clients in that case were claiming that they weren't even getting all of their settlement money. So, yeah, this happened before any decline, probably. Not even probably. It was absolutely happening before the cognitive decline. And they were referencing how in 2015 he was giving clients the runaround. So the defense is trying to argue that Tom Girardi is just not all there, and the person that was really running this scheme was Christopher Camone, who was the CFO. But we're seeing that like there are emails and there are voicemails and there are people that are testifying, that are saying that they were having these conversations, like Erica Saldana, who's saying that I think at one point Tom's like, okay, I'm going to give you a check personally. Like, I don't know what the delay is in getting your money, but I'm working on it. But I'll give you a check. So come to the Girardi Keys office, and I'll have a check ready for you. And she went to the Girardi Keys office, and he was promising her at least 500,000. She got there, and the check was for 5,000. And she was just like, she said she started crying, and she just ripped up the check because it was such an insult that he dragged her all the way to the office in downtown LA at the Girardi Keys offices to pick up this check that she was expecting was supposed to be this big check, and she gets there and it's only $5,000. She's like, she has to pay for her son, yeah. And then you have Eric, the attorney for Selberg, who also said, hey, I was in communication with Tom Girardi and he seemed with it at the time. So there may have been some cognitive decline, there may have been some confusion, but it doesn't actually um, get. It's it's crazy. It's like a big Ponzi scheme. It is like a big Ponzi scheme. All the money was being mixed, and client money was being mixed, and money was just being mismanaged all over. And that's the crazy part. Well, he won't know he's in prison. Onward with the conviction. Yeah, that is true. And we should, at this point, guilty regardless. No, I agree, Velda. Like, here's the thing. He did it. And they're proving that in court. I don't think this is going to end well for Tom Girardi. It is kind of interesting, though, getting the context of being like, well, if he was paying the money back, where did that money go then if it wasn't going to the clients? Like, how did it, like, I want to know where is the money? He doesn't have it. Erica doesn't have it. Where did the money go? Is, the prosecution's trying to, or not the prosecution, sorry, the defense is trying to argue that Christopher Camone was like having his own side deals with the money, and he allegedly stole what, about 10 million from his own side fraud scheme. But like, that's not enough for all the unaccounted money. Like, where is the money? That's what I want to know. Where did it go? That's the crazy part. Yeah, Wanda says, this sounds tricky because dementia has different times of spreading. I mean, sometimes people can lose their memory quicker than others, and the symptoms can be different in some to others. Yeah. Well, I think there were a few others. There was Bob Finnerty, Keith Griffin, David Lira, other people that are now being brought up that will now possibly face charges moving forward. Um, so yeah, it's wild. But I'll keep you guys posted. I'll do some Instagram reels this week as well to give you specifics of what former clients have said, what former staffers have said, and just kind of keeping you posted on Instagram. It's possible that we will have a verdict this week as early as Thursday. There's no court on Fridays. So if not this week, then probably early next week. The defense definitely doesn't, they did their best defending what the prosecution was trying to lay out. And now I think their argument is that it was all Camone, but I don't think it's going to end well for Tom. I think he's going to prison. I think he's going to have a guilty conviction and he will be serving some time for sure. Because it's very apparent that he was dodging these clients and aware of what was going on and, lying to them. All right, guys, I love you. I appreciate you. I do have to bounce. I'm going to be taping Don't Let It Stew with Chef Stew literally right now after this. And then I have to go in the studio to tape the pop report. So wish me luck that my brain doesn't completely flatline. I love you. I appreciate you. Be sure to subscribe. Listen on all the places, subscribe on all the places, leave all the reviews. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can stream live on YouTube first thing in the morning. Top of the morning to ya. So I love you. I appreciate you. Aaron said, hi, Zach. I'm new to your YouTube channel and I've just wanted to say how much I appreciate how you cover the stories. Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate that. Auntie Wombat says, pretty simple on the money. She spent it like it was water flowing from the Tap Glam Squad, clothing, financing. No, though, actually. The money's not that simple. I can tell you have not been tuning into this because we're also not talking about Erica. We're focusing on, I literally just named Keith Griffin, David Lira, Bob Finnerty, Tom Girardi, Christopher Camone, all these other people that were actually hands-on, knee-deep in all of this. Not to mention the people that worked in accounting that were aware that they were covering, what the priorities were and didn't say anything. But also I think some of them didn't know better or were afraid to challenge Tom. It's dicey. Dicey. All right. Thank you, guys. I love you guys. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Ciao for now. Bye. Love ya. Give me a follow, Just Plain Zach. Follow, subscribe, review, hit the bell button on YouTube to get those notifications. That way you're always there when we go live. All right.